Hello everyone, I am Partha Mishra and I will be presenting today on the topic Magic of Metamaterials and the Science of Invisibility. So, this presentation is dedicated to all the Potterheads out there and also to those who wish to know about the science of invisibility and some cool optical illusions using the magic of metamaterials. So, our eyes are an incredible part of our body. With this incredible vision, we try to identify objects around us and have attached some names to them. This is how the world makes sense to us. But there must have been instances in your life where your mind's eye gets fooled to capture reality. In fact, nature long ago learned that survival is all about blending into the background and looking like something else. Camouflage, for instance, is all about the art of melding into invisibility, right? So, before taking you to the wonders of metamaterials, I would like to point out why metamaterials are important. The idea of using advanced materials to cloak an object is not something that is done just for the sake of making this invisible, especially once one is reminded that this ability has been around for decades. That is the stealth aircraft, drones, and ships. Objects that use stealth technology are simultaneously visible and invisible. They are visible in the wavelength detected by the human eye, but invisible to the spectrum used for radar. Certain materials can control electromagnetic waves. They can also be used to improve the performance of satellite antennas and sensors. The use of metamaterials in antenna design not only reduces the size of the antenna but can also improve other antenna parameters such as enhancing bandwidth, increasing gain, or generating multi-band frequencies of antenna operations. Then, metamaterials could also improve medical imaging by cloaking internal organs and tissues, making them invisible, so that a doctor can see the problem point. Creating an acoustic metamaterial that directs ultrasound could one day lead to high resolution images as well. In this slide, we will look some of the earlier attempts to make a cloaking device using mirrors. Periscope is probably best known through its military use in submarines and surveillance exercises, where the observer wishes to remain unseen. This simple device is composed of two mirrors, basically, one placed directly above the other, and both set at an angle of 45 degrees. In this fashion, the light ray path is made to shift through a vertical distance equal to the separation between the two mirrors. Now, building on this idea of periscopes, scientists have attempted several other mirror arrangements. This first one is a mirror ramp invisibility device, which consists of four flat mirrors, as we can see. The idea here is to construct two mirror corners. One mirror corner set will have the mirrored surface on the upper side, while the other has the mirrored surface on the downward side. A horizontal light ray will therefore undergo four reflections, each through 90 degrees, such that after the fourth reflection, it is moving in a horizontal direction again. Thus anything placed under the lower mirror, lower mirror corner will be invisible to the observer. But it obviously has a lot of disadvantages, as the observer must look directly at the mirror to actually make the object invisible, and the mirror support studs that are there will be very obvious to the observer. In addition to that, mirrors are quite difficult to mount and arrange as per the specifications. So transporting these devices is also a greater question. So to counter this thing, another device called the Techie Invisibility Cloak was developed in the Techie Labs. This cloak worked by projecting onto the front of the cloak an exact rendition of the view that lies behind it. Accordingly, a digital camera is placed behind the cloak, and its output is directed to a projector aimed towards a flat. Now, this is angled at a 45-degree transparent screen. The flat screen allows the observer to see right through it, but it also reflects that projected background image through a 90-degree angle. so that it eliminates the front of the cloak. In fact, we have all seen examples of retroreflecting paint surfaces, but may not have realized it. Virtually all modern road signs, road median marketings, the markings basically, and portions of the clothing worn by cyclists and emergency response personnel have retroreflecting surfaces. Indeed, under any circumstance where high visibility is an asset, retroreflection surfaces are a definite help. So let's finally answer this. What are metamaterials? And how can they help in making cloaking device? Metamaterials are artificially structured composite materials which exhibit interaction with electromagnetic radiation or light in ways which are usually not available in nature. Hence, this particular type of metamaterial that interacts with light is known as electromagnetic metamaterials. And we will be focusing on this particular metamaterial for this slide, and we'll be mostly dealing with these throughout the presentation as they are perfect suitors for potential cloaking devices and can seemingly cloak either radio frequencies or microwave frequencies, and some can stretch this invisibility for visible frequencies as well. More than just combining chemical elements or various metals to make new molecules and alloys, metamaterials are custom substrate built from a bottom to top approach with very specific layering and shaped inclusions. Hence, word metamaterial can be referred to as a man-made substructure. With respect to invisibility cloaking, the key requirement of metamaterial substrate is to interact with with and carefully control the passage of electromagnetic radiation through it. The light needs to be seemingly channeled around a cavity in which a solid object can be hidden from external view. If we can crack the manufacturing technology for metamaterials, we'll soon have a fully functional and invisibility cloak. A conventional material is different from a metamaterial. All metamaterials that interact with light owes their refractive or optical properties to the way they are structured rather than the substance they compose of. As we can see in this figure, metamaterials are materials whose properties deviate from that of conventional materials. In the case of conventional materials, its constituent composition is atoms and molecules, whereas are composed of meta-atoms, which are artificially engineered in a bottom to top approach, as we said. So, electromagnetic metamaterials respond to chosen part of radiated light, also known as electromagnetic spectrum, um, in a manner that is difficult or impossible to achieve with natural materials. In other words, these metamaterials can be further defined as artificially structured composite materials, as we did, which exhibit interaction with light, usually not available in nature. At the same time, metamaterials have the potential to be engineered and constructed with desirable properties that fit a specific need. This need will be determined by the particular application. It can be tuned to respond to different wavelengths of light and coming nearly to the angle of polarization, obviously. Any polarization by changing the material or adjusting the geometries of the waveguides of the electromagnetic radiation. Now, the fact that these negative index metamaterial design are tunable, we will discuss about them in the later slides, that these index of refraction can be altered to respond better to the electromagnetic spectrum as per the need of the application is something that baffles most of the scientists. This property enables the creation of a wide range of metamaterials based on the response of a specific electromagnetic spectrum. Metamaterials are built from natural materials, but they can have properties such as negative refractive index, as we will discuss, that do not exist in nature. Since these materials are very much tunable, hence they are not limited to optics or acoustics or structural properties only. They can have a broad range of application. In simple words, metamaterials open up the realm of designing a material precisely that can extend the properties beyond what nature can provide us with. So that's why they are negative index metamaterials that don't exist in nature. So let's see for ourselves how intuitively can we cloak an object. The first approach is based on a more fictional aspect and draws inspiration from H.G. Wells' Invisible Man or Mr. India, whatever movie you wish. The Invisible Man would drink a chemical potion that would change the chemistry of his body so that the refractive index of his body become 1, that is the same as the air medium, and hence light rays pass straight through him and are not refracting at all. Obviously, we haven't been able to brew such a hypothetical question as of now, so we have to move forward and look for a more practical solution. This second approach that we will discuss introduces the concept of cloaking. Now, so here the object who wants to hide has got a high refractive index, and so if this wasn't cloaked, then it would be scattering. It would scatter light or in all directions. So what we do is that we wrap the object with a cloak which compensates for the refraction of the object and thus allows light rays to bend as shown here in this complicated path, thus hiding the object. But the problem here is that if the object could move around, then the cloak has to also move as well as to compensate for the refraction caused. Also, the system is necessarily resonant, thus has limited bandwidth. Now we look for the third approach. The third approach is based on deviating light around the object, such that as light ray enters the cloaking material, it is bent and moved away from the object and light rays, and do not interact with the object at all, so it becomes invisible. As and as we can see here that light rays do bend as it enters the cloaking material, but then aligns in the original direction as it exits the cloak. So an observer, for an observer, it would be appear as if the cloak itself along with the object is invisible to him. But one of the drawback of this method is that if the person were to hide using the cloak, then he would be invisible, but at the same time he is also cloaked out from the outside world, as per the reciprocity theorem that goes something like, if I can see you, then you can see me. But even if that is true, we wouldn't care much as of now, since we are just trying to make a cloaking device used to cloak object. With the tools of these metamaterial knowledge and the intuitive idea of to make the things invisible, we now can move ahead to the next slide and take inspiration from some profound and remarkable theories in physics to understand how can light bend it is if it is following a rectilinear path, and how can we engineer a material whose optical properties could bend light in the ways as we discussed. Now, in this slide, we discuss about transformation optics, which is a very abstract concept. So, to get an inspiration of the idea, we try to go a little step back and discuss about Einstein's general relativity in exaggerated terms. A very exaggerated yet ideal example that is often given uh, is that of a trampoline or a stretchy cloth that we add weight to it. Let's see if we add a 10 kg mass first and follow it and try following it with a 4 kg mass, but we give it an initial push so that it moves in a circular path, somewhat mimicking the movement of the planets around the sun. Now, then the 10 kg mass distorts the fabric material enough for the 4 kg to follow the path of the distorted space and follow its trajectory. That is what causes the planet to move around the very heavy sun. So it's like matter tells the space how much to curve, and space tells matter how to move. That is how gravity works. Another interesting effect of the theory of general relativity is the gravitational lensing. Now, what happens to the light from a star which exists behind the sun as it moves through the space to reach the earth? As the space distorts around heavy objects, which is the sun. Here, that is the sun space. So, due to the sun, the space distorts around a heavy object, as we know, which is the sun here. So, it is able to bend space enough around it such that the light would appear to take a curved path in spite of having the natural property of rectilinear propagation, as we know, and thus the result is a curved path of light that light didn't wish to follow, but it's the geometry of space itself that causes such a bending. This bending of starlight behind the sun was measured during a lunar eclipse, and it did confirm this effect. Scientists by that time were quite familiar with the effects of refraction as light travels from a rarer to a denser medium, such as from air to glass. Discrete variation of refractive index occurs here, such that light switches from an optical media, enters the glass media, uh, from air media to glass media. The electric field of light, which is an electromagnetic wave, interacts with the glass atoms, thereby causing an internal electric field creation in the glass material, which, upon partial destructive interference with the light's electric field, causes the light to bend. But if we could observe carefully, light doesn't follow a curved path. Instead, it follows a rectilinear path here. And if we think about it, nature has curved this. This nature has curved the path of light in a very familiar ideal. In a very familiar case, we can take an example of mirage effect. It's nothing but an optical illusion, isn't it? The idea of a mirage, which is produced by a region of smoothly varying refractive index of air media, tell us something useful about the way in which light rays can be controlled. Indeed, the lessons we learn from the formation of mirages is that the direction of a light ray can be changed gradually in an unbroken fashion, unlike that in reflection and refraction, as we saw earlier. Now, to get a hold of those abstract ideas and engineering artificial atoms and molecules that nature has clearly missed, we will look at certain properties of metamaterials and try to develop a toolkit and experiments of how it proceeded. We saw in previous slide how the conventional or natural material have a different composition from that to a metamaterial, but we should also investigate how light, that is electromagnetic radiation, interacts with either of the two. Now, as we can see and claim that all the conventional optical materials obeys the laws of reflection and refraction. Hence, as per Snell's law, we can experimentally find either how much angle has the light bend in that particular material, or find the index of refraction when the angles are known. Obviously, since we are dealing with conventional materials like glass, that is impossible for light to somehow curve and not interact with a particular object within the material because of its fixed geometry. But if at all we could artificially design an electromagnetic metamaterial that would interact with the electromagnetic spectrum enough to bend light as so that object gets cloaked then and is unable to interact with the visible spectrum, then the object is certainly invisible, and thus the idea of transformation optics was thus born, um, which draws conclusions from the physical reality of space itself and helps in designing a metamaterial to create illusions by bending light, which would cloak other materials. So what we are doing is transforming space. That is, each point in the physical space is mapped to a point in the virtual space in a metamaterial, and by doing so is the distorted space makes that object invisible by demagnification, and hence it appears as though the object is not there. So in simple words, the light appears to be bent in the real space, but when transformed into the virtual space, it appears to propagate rectilinearly, almost fooling light by rendering the object invisible. Now, designing such an electromagnetic metamaterial that has a controllable refractive index so that it could bend light unlike the natural materials is what puzzled engineers and scientists. Now, toolkit of metamaterial design, we can talk about it. At the heart of metamaterial design is the manipulation of the magnetic permeability and electric permittivity. Now, in an attempt to find a solution to the index of refraction, scientists stumbled upon the paper by Soviet physicist Viktor Vasilenko, who had an amazing solution to the negative values of electrical permittivity and magnetic permeability of metamaterials. His mathematical trick was so simple, yet it paved the path of the metamaterial evolution. He claimed that since the refractive index of a material is nothing but the ratio of speed of light in vacuum to the speed of light in material, and the speed of electromagnetic wave through a material is given by 1 by square root of mu epsilon. So refractive index is directly related to electrical permittivity and magnetic permeability of the material. And this basic question of what physical sense what physical sense does these negative values of permittivity and permeability make, as we saw in the first slide of metamaterial, is what helped construct artificial metamaterials. His math didn't allow anyhow to explore naturally occurring metamaterials, but provided a toolkit to look for such materials. These metamaterials came to be known as left-hand materials because of the inherent optical properties that arise from negative values of permittivity and permeability, um, and which is able to produce opposite effects to conventional optics of reflection and reflection. Unlike the conventional light-handed material that obey laws of optics. So, when a light ray encounters a negative refractive index surface, rather than being refracted at an angle to the right of the surface normal, what it does is it reflects to the left. See various attempts made to create a cloaking device. The primary idea behind these cloaking devices is to change the scattering of electromagnetic waves, such as light, and make an object less detectable to certain wave frequencies. Now, the researchers at Duke University in the year 2006 engineered the first ever invisibility cloak. This Duke cloak was made of a specially constructed metamaterial and successfully steered microwave radiations around the central cavity that contained a copper cylinder. So, basically, to make the fabrication process more manageable, the researchers decided to work at microwave wavelengths rather than much shorter of challenging visible light. The cloaking device was fabricated from a series of concentric circular substrates. Upon the surface, these substrates are a series of split ring resonators that produce the required radial variation in the negative refractive index, and which guide any incident microwave beam around the central cavity, thereby making the central region invisible of microwave detection. Each substrate was about the same diameter as that of a CD or a DVD. The next successful breakthrough in creating a cloaking device goes to research team at MTU. Now, why was it more successful than the previous one? Well, this their cloaking device went a little further and was able to cloak both infrared and microwave wavelengths, all because of their desired application of ceramics and glass resonators, which are nothing but those artificially engineered metamaterial atoms. In all the optical materials, the most relevant parameters are the magnitude of the optical gap and the microstructure size in comparison with the wavelength of the electromagnetic radiation. Now, most optical materials have a wide optical gap and are monolithic dense glasses like oxides, fluoride glasses, and so on. But ceramics having wide gap materials can be increasingly used as optical materials because of simpler fabrication and better thermal, mechanical and chemical resistance obviously. However, incorporating ceramics into the optical material field needs the usage of ceramic processing methods in order to achieve the right microstructure to adapt to the optical and photonic application. So instead of using split metal rings and cut wires, as we saw earlier, see the research team designed metamaterials that are dielectrics. That is, those substances which do not conduct electricity, and hence, depending upon the operational frequency, they are demonstrated for the infrared spectrum. They used identical nano-sized non-metallic chalcogenide glass cylinders, which are essentially dielectrics with high refractive index, which, when arranged in a spoke-like concentric circle pattern, as we can see around the region, to be cloaked, whereas this is made for ultraviolet spectrum. Now, they used an array of ceramic resonators this time, which behaved like a metamaterial with a negative refractive index, and hence managed to cloak metal cylinders of 2 or 3 inches of diameter and 3 to 4 inches high. Now, the impending question that remain in is whether it is possible to fabricate a cloaking device that could produce a 3D invisibility cloak operating at optical wavelengths, while in principle the physical design does not need to change, and when moving to the visible light, the scale of the device, but uh, as well as its structural component, must change. So next we move to carpet cloaking. Now, the essential idea behind the carpet cloak is to make an uneven reflective surface, covered in bumps and wrinkles, look like a flat surface to an external observer. Now, the objects to be hidden in this case are literally swept under an optical carpet. The object to be hidden is placed under this smooth hump that we can see in a reflective mirror-like base plate, and the distortions caused by the hump in the mirror are counteracted by an overlying metamaterial substrate. To make an invisibility cloak work properly, the refractive index of the metamaterial layer is adjusted so that any incident light beam behaves as if as if they are being reflected from the surface of a perfect flat mirror. Now, one of the very first carpet cloak was a microwave carpet cloak fabricated by the same Duke University research group. The main advantage of this carpet cloak was that the metamaterial need not produce a negative refractive index, as was the case in previous models. The researchers used the theory of transformation optics to be described as we described earlier to map out the required variation of the refractive index in the region of the cloak bump. Now, other research teams also tried to operate this cloaking mechanism at near optical wavelengths. The first optical wavelength carpet cloak was developed at the National Science Foundation Nanoscale Science and Engineering Center at the University of California at Berkeley. This is a computer generated view of the fabrication of a 3D carpet cloak, as we can see, computer aided 3D cloak. Now, it is designed using a grid of polymer rods, each just a few hundred of nanometers in diameter, stacked in layers that alternatively lie across each other in a wood pile fashion. And hence, the device is called a wood pile photonic crystal. Now, entering the world of nanotechnology and particularly nanomaterials shows promising approaches to making such cloaking devices even more efficient, we can say. Scientists soon realized that there is an inevitable physical limit beyond which it will not be possible to fabricate split ring resonators with metal links, and hence they are now focusing on fabricating clocks out of non-magnetic metamaterials, that is, one without a split ring resonator, to produce an optical wavelength invisibility cloak. Recent studies on invisibility cloaks based on developing an ultra-thin invisibility skin cloak for visible light, a technology, a technology that is focusing on combining ceramic particles and Teflon to achieve cloaking effects. Now, how far have we reached to create a fully operating flexible cloak? Well, in spite of the incredible advances in metamaterial fabrication, there is still a very long way to go before a fully fabricated Harry Potter style flexible cloak, invisibility cloak, or even a carpet cloak that might hide a sugar lump maybe in certain higher scales. Not only must the fabrication scale be greatly increased, but so too must the wavelength range over which the cloak operates must be expanded. Now, the first issue related to ray trace is related to ray tracing in the anisotropic effect, which is the anisotropic effects of the materials on the electromagnetic rays entering the system. Parallel rays that head directly for the center are abruptly curved, and along with neighboring rays are forced into tighter and tighter arcs, as we saw in the transformation optics. This is due to rapid changes in the now shifting and transforming permittivity and permeability. So the second issue is due to continual shifting of epsilon and mu. The value for epsilon and mu cannot be very large or very small. Now the third issue is that the selected metamaterial are currently unable to achieve broad frequency spectrum capabilities, and even if they do, as per some recent experiments that we saw, there's still a lot of scaling up and transfer of technology that is required. So let us now see some other marvelous applications of metamaterial technologies. Use of metamaterials in superlenses. Superlenses consist of metamaterial to achieve resolution beyond the diffraction limit, which are able to view live viruses and maybe even bits of DNA. Now, the next is use of metamaterial in acoustic cloaking technology. Acoustic cloaking could be used in the future to mask submarines from enemy sonars. The cloak is made of metamaterial, a class of artificial materials that have enhanced properties as a result of careful engineering structure, as we saw. A research team from University of Illinois designed a two-dimensional cylindrical cloak made of 16 concentric rings of acoustic circuits structured to guide these sound waves. Now, each ring has a different index of refraction, meaning that sound waves vary their speed from the outer rings to the inner ones. Now, the next marvelous application of metamaterial is found in solar cell research. Now, scientists could potentially tune the index of metamaterial response to better match the solar spectrum. Now, allowing for the development of broadband wide-angle metamaterial that could enhance the light collection in the solar cells. And the fact that the metamaterial has a wide angle response is important because it means that it can accept light from a broad range of angles. In the case of solar cells, this means more light collection and less reflected or wasted light. Now, use of metamaterials using for protection from destructive seismic waves. Now, these metamaterials are designed to counteract the adverse effects of seismic waves like longitudinal surface waves, be it volcanic vibrations or earthquakes. Now, hence, metamaterials can be used to manipulate seismic waves like destructive surface waves. So, as per a recent application, LG Electronics' new mobile handset from its high-end Black Label series will incorporate this metamaterial antenna made by San Diego-based Raceman. LG is the first company, perhaps, to use metamaterials in mobile handset. Now, metamaterials have allowed LG to achieve the dramatically sleek, slim designs of the new handset series and unsurpassed radio frequencies capabilities. The metamaterial antennas satisfy this void by enabling the antennas to be sized on the order of one-tenth of the signal's wavelength and yet provide performance on par or better than conventional antennas sized one half of the signal wavelength, thereby providing a whopping 5 times the size reduction. Now, the antenna used in the LG handset is a few millimeters long and as thin as paper, and it simplifies the integration of both GPS and Bluetooth protocols. The same antenna array is also shared by the cellular and Wi-Fi radios within the handset,